Hey everybody, this is Exile. I'm a server mod for the Flipaholics Discord. To start with, just want to say welcome to the community. If you have any questions, please feel free to DM me or at any server mod by just typing in @servermod and hitting tab. This video is really just to help the newcomers adjust to the overwhelming amount of information that they're about to encounter. You can either watch this video and I'll help you work through the most critical points, or you can simply read through it on your own. It doesn't really matter. Now, you may notice that you have access to some new sections in the Discord server depending on your sub tier. I'm going to be going through a good portion of these sections, mostly just to get you comfortable with starting the server. I'm not going to be covering all of the information, so make sure you do go back through and read these text posts when you have some time. So starting in the trader chatting section, we have your standard general information threads. This just includes an announcements channel, the server rules, an FAQ, and a general chat lounge, the sub lounge. The only real rule that you need to be concerned with in the sub lounge is to not discuss specific prices regarding items. These discussions should just be held to the specific channels that they are designated for. So to start, let's just start by going through the rules of the server. There's only 4 of them, so they should be relatively quick and easy to get through. The first and primary rule is that all members must be matching prices at all times. The only exception to this is when you're using an alt account to flip the same item on multiple accounts, or if you're attempting a stretch of some kind. Nobody's really allowed inside the set margins. This is referred to as cutting, and it's going to result in some harsh punishments up to and including a permanent ban, which should be expected. The second rule is just as important as the first, and it's the reason communities like ours can exist, and that's communication. Every single member, including all of the server staff, are required to communicate every single buy and sale that we complete. This includes personal sales, or if you get a PVM drop, or if you have something sitting in the bank for a long time, you have to report and record all of it to communicate with everybody what the current margins are. So if you bump a price, stretch a price, place a new price, anything like that, you need to communicate it through the appropriate channels. For example, if an item is selling for a small margin at 195 mil and you decide to stretch it to something like 200 mil, you need to communicate that with a PS report, which is something we'll talk about in a little bit, and a note that you're stretching. If you're stretching unreasonably far, such as here, Staff of Armidal was selling for 1870, and someone decided they wanted to try to stretch all the way out to 1960, hoping for a rise. As you can see, it has been skyrocketing. Then you just communicate that others do not have to follow, so don't have to follow. This is just to allow yourself and others some leeway to play with prices and be able to operate outside the margins without making things unfair for some people. The third rule is for participation. This rule is not one that will get you banned unless we determine that you're being malicious in some way, but usually this rule just results in you being sent to the passive chamber. The passive chamber is just a place where you get sent to if you're not participating, if you're not reporting prices, if you're not recording anything, and you're kind of just leeching. Remember that flipping without contributing is considered leeching, which is against the rules. The passive chamber is really quick and easy to get out of. It is just an acknowledgement of Rule 3. Once you acknowledge and complete 1 or 2 other steps, then you get your access restored to you, and you can continue flipping like normal. And finally, our 4th rule is just a catch-all generic expectation that's basically present in all public and private forums, and that's disrespectful, malicious, toxic behavior, etc. That can get you banned. It has happened before, but thankfully, most people behave like adults, so we're fine, and it's quite rare that it's enforced. Scrolling down, you can see detailed explanations of the various methods of enforcement and punishment regarding the rules. Server members will periodically be picked at random to submit a GE history sweep, which is just people submit pictures of their GE history, and we go through and compare what they have reported versus what's in their history. Members are picked periodically at random, happens every 1 to 2 weeks, and then maybe once every 1 to 2 months, or doesn't really matter, just whenever we feel like, we do a full sweep of everybody. This just helps protect both the integrity of the database prices in ShakeBot and the interest of the subscribers, because nobody's really going to be willing to share their margins if they can't trust that others aren't cutting or that there's not some kind of verification in place. Punishments are pretty standard. We have warnings, denial of continued services, or a permanent ban/blacklist depending on the severity. Any interest in refunds has to be discussed with the server owners, though, being Flipaholics and Shake. Moving on to the FAQ, I'm going to get through these quickly and easily. As with the previous section over the rules, I suggest you read through them on your own to ensure you fully understand all of the information, all of the requirements, etc. It is on you to understand them. I'm not going through every detail, I'm just trying to give you a quick explanation. The first 2 points I'm just going to skip for now. We've already read the rules, and I'm going to cover the channels with you after this. As for what to flip, which is number 3 here, I'm also going to come back to that in a few moments at the end. So the first major topic I'm going to discuss is report formatting. All reports have to follow one of two formats. They're either a completed trade or they're an informational post. Submitting a completed trade, such as an instant buy or sell or a not instant buy or sell, you have to follow this specific format here. I'm actually going to click away from this so I can type inside the chat boxes here and show you some examples. So I'm going to come over here to the bulk bot commands where I have this typed up. And here I have the general format. So I'm telling you that we have to list the trade type, the quantity in the trade, the item, what price, and then any notes that you may have. Now it's important to know that the notes section is completely optional, and many trades were reported without one. So to start, let's just pretend that you bought a staff of Armital, not instant buy. You bought a single one at 1505.5 mil, right? Well, what you're going to say is that you nib, not instant buy, space, 1, the quantity. You can type out the full name, so fractured staff of Armital, or we have aliases, which you will learn later. You can type out the alias, FSOA, the price, 1505.5 mil, and then any notes. Let's say it took a couple hours. I'm gonna stay here. And there you go. That's how you report the price. We have our type of trade, our quantity, our item name, our price, and then notes. Again, remember the notes are optional. This would also work just fine. However, it is important to reiterate, communication is key to our success. I'm not going to hesitate to write out any relevant information in trades. There is no reason to not write notes if there's something that needs to be known. If you had a pending purchase for 4 of an item, but only 1 of them bought, put 1 out of 4 in the notes so people know that, hey, this wasn't just 1 that bought. If it sat for 12 hours, this is probably due to be bumped because only 1 in 4 bought in 12 or whatever, however many hours. If you think it traded quickly or slowly and requires a stretch or a bump, put it in the notes. If you just have a gut feeling that it can be stretched, put it in the notes. The notes are the key to communicating to people who are on the same item, but not currently around, because often you may tag and ask somebody, hey, do you want to do this? Or hey, this weird thing happened, and others may be on the item that you didn't even know about. The other type of report that I mentioned is an informational one, and it follows almost the exact same format, but it's slightly different. I'm going to come over here to the Elite Bot commands where I have it typed up, and you should notice there's only one difference. There is no quantity. When you're doing a PB or PS, which is a placing buy, placing sale report, notes are again optional. You do not have to have a note there. However, when you're doing a no buy or no sale report, say if something's been sitting dry for a long time, then a note's going to be mandatory so you can inform people of what your plan is going forward. Usually this is just a price adjustment as needed. However, it can also be random notes such as saying that, hey, I'm pulling. If you're dropping the item, you're going to chase anymore. Or that you're going to stay here overnight, or that you think that it hasn't been long enough to bump it just yet. Just for some reason, you're going to communicate and you're not changing the price. Regardless, if it is a no buy, no sale report, you have to include a note. And an example is, let's say that FSOA that we just looked at in the last example. We're going to say the same price, 1505.5. Let's say it didn't buy. I'm going to say no buy, FSOA, 1505.5. And then I could say a number of things. I could say plus 10 if I'm going to change the price, increase it to 1515.5. I could say pulling if I'm going to drop the item. I don't want to chase it anymore. Or let's pretend I want to stay for even longer. I can just say something like staying for another couple of hours. Margin is too small to bump. You can put any note that you want. Again, the key is just to update people and make sure we're staying in. Now, coming back to the FAQ, here are some examples that you can see. Here we not instant bought 2 Amulet of the Forsaken. This is an alias that we use for it at 24.505, and we were listing it. But you may notice this price does not exactly match up with this price. You notice the buy price, I actually bought it 5,000 over it. And the sale price that I'm claiming, I'm actually selling at 5,000 under it. This is because anytime you are listing a price, you do not include our cut. The cut is assumed. Speaking of our cut, we're going to say it's 5,000 GP on all trades. This means if you see a buy price that is listed, you add 5,000 to that reported. If you see a sale price that is listed, that means you subtract 5,000. It's going to be a little annoying at first, but I promise it's going to become second nature at some point. I find myself solo flipping on OSRS quite frequently, and I default to the 5K cut purely out of muscle memory, even though it's not required. Finally, the rule for bumping items. When you're bumping an item, you should be focusing on bumping every 4 hours minimum as a general rule. Notice that I say as a general rule. There are instances where early and delayed bumps are necessary. For example, low volume items such as holiday rares or the Zuck Sword should be bumped anywhere from once every 6 to 8 hours or once every couple of days. Another example is being when game updates come out. Around the time this video is made, several major combat changes have been made. Every time some change is announced, prices surge or crash depending on the news. Mage items have done wild things in the past month or so. In that case, it's not unreasonable to change the prices based on suspected trends or proof from other price sources, such as the public database or friends. But the only caveat to this is that you must communicate. This is not optional. Failure to follow the bumping guidelines without a discussion first is still a rule violation, even if the bump was justified. Now, the rest of the FAQ is important. You should still read it. However, to help shorten out this video, I'm going to leave that task to you. For now, you have enough basic information to begin actually using the various channels and get started with flipping, so that's what I'm going to focus on for now. Now that we have the basics down, we're going to focus on how to actually use the channels. As you can see, the channels are split into 3 categories: bulk traders, elite traders, supreme traders. And this is based on the 3 categories or the 3 tiers of subs. Every higher tier has access to the previous tiers before it, so if you're subscribed to Elite, for example, you can see both Elite channels and bulk channels. If you're a Supreme member, you can see all 3 categories. Each category has the same 3 channels available. They have a discussion channel, a bot channel, and a prices channel. Bulk is the notable exception to this because there are another set of rules and strategies purely for that category, but that's for a different video. You can check that out on the page. The discussion channels are exactly what they sound like. They are just a place to discuss what is happening. If you have any questions or observations relevant to the items in that category, then this is the place to communicate and ask. As you can see, they're used frequently, basically every day, and all the different channels just have people talking and kind of referencing different systems. Sometimes they're treated as a general chat, but usually try to keep it related to that content. The prices channel are similar to the discussion channel in that it's really simple and easy to use. This is where you log all trades or bot updates that you want to be tracked. I'm going to be showing you this here in a few minutes. After I finish going through this, I'm actually going to do some price updates of my own, and I'm going to walk you through me updating one of my accounts. But real quick, let's just break a few of these down. Here you see that there was a no sell, so he had it listed at 349.5. It was a noxious staff, didn't sell, so he's bumping it down minus 9.5 mil. We had a crazy situation where Nox staff was buying for just over 300 mil, selling for almost 350. So we're knocking it back down to reasonable prices. Same thing happened here with the Noxious Bow. Noxious Scythe, we're currently hunting for that margin, so no buy on the Noxious Scythe at 370 mil, so he's adding 5. Remember, what price is this actually? It is not 370 mil, it is 370,005,000 GP. Here we have a no sell on Barrow's Die at 135, and so we're knocking the price down by 5.5 mil. Hopefully this seems fairly intuitive and you're going to get used to it very quickly, probably by the end of the first day. Finally, we have the bot commands channel. This channel is where you're going to do all of your item searches as well as a few other nifty little commands that can help you out. I'll show you after I finish going through all of this. But to begin your search, you can use a variety of commands. You can use .pc, you can use /pc, or you can use my favorite, the $. For example, let's just say we want to look at that Nox staff from earlier. We can look it up, and here it is. So, use the command, input the item name or an alias, and you can find a link to the alias spreadsheet pinned in the Sub Lounge channel up here. Click the pins, and Beef House has it here. Just click the link and you can see all of the current aliases. If you happen to search for an incorrect item for that category in these commands channels, such as, let's say I came here and I tried to search a Praisal Codex. Here you can see I tried searching for it. That is a Supreme category item, and it just sends me to the Supreme bot commands channel, which is also located right here. So if you're not sure what category an item is located in, just try searching it. It'll send you to the right place. Now, I'm going to kind of show you an example of how to break one of these things apart. So in our example, we're going to look at the Dracolich Coif. Here you can see how the most recent price changes have behaved. 2 days ago almost, he was at nearly 80 mil. He was at 78 mil and couldn't sell it. So he kept dropping the price, and then noticed he may have overdropped the price. Went to 73. It was kind of fast, so I tried stretching it out just 1 mil to see if it would work. And it did. It started working. I got some more buys, some more sales. I got some more buys, but it slowed down. Notice I'm only getting 1 now, whereas previously I was getting 3. I sold it at 73, and less than a minute later, this is 3 hours 41 minutes ago, 3 hours 41 minutes ago. So less than a minute later, it sold. Because of that, I recommend a very large stretch, maybe up to 80. This is also based on the fact that we have other items that are also spiking at this time, so I had more information than just this at that time. Now, I'm going to go through one of my accounts with you real quick before we finish up here. As you can see, I have an account sitting here with a almost completely dead Grand Exchange. Nothing's really moved on this. I have 1 buy, which I'm actually going to talk about in a second because that was a little fast. But I've been working on this video and haven't really checked it as much as I should have in the past few hours. So we're going to start by looking at our Dark Shard of Ling. Notice I'm here at 1252.5 was my price. So I'm going to come over to the Supreme channel and look up. The alias for this is MH Ling, main hand Ling. Notice I missed 1, 2, 3 bumps. I actually think what happened here is I was trying to follow this one and I had a typo, and for some reason I was trying to go to 1262.5, but I went back to 1252.5. I did -5 instead of +5. But they bumped it again by 10 because you notice the bump sizes are increasing as we go. So looks like it's probably due for a bump again, but I need to change my price to 1272.5. I'm going to come over here, type in 1272.505, and hit enter. I got this I-core here, the Imperium core. The thing is, I just placed this trade not too long ago. Let's go back and check, and we can see that if I look up I-core, we placed this trade less than 2 hours ago. Someone else also got a buy, so I'm probably going to recommend a second stretch and maybe a stretch on the sale because it looks like they sold it in under a minute. So I'm going to try 312 maybe, see what happens. Let's come back over. Now remember, 312 with a 5K cut would be 311,995,000. And we'll recommend it in the Discord channel by coming back over here. Porting our buy, NIB1 I-core 284.5, then PS I-core 312. Now, I'm not going to make you sit through all of these updates with me. I just kind of wanted to show you here. We have the OHB, which is also due for a bump because it's been sitting here for a while. Offhand blights. And notice I bumped it down a while ago. A whole bunch of buys have come in, including at the old price that people were cutting over. So let's bump it down by, let's say, 3 mil. So I'm going to say no sell OHB 219.5 minus 3. And then when I come back over 216495 and hit enter, we'll be good to go. And that's basically it. You basically know everything that you need to get started using ShakeBot and the Flipaholics community. Before I go, I'd like to show you a couple of useful commands for the bot. They're especially useful in Elite, not as much in Supreme. But let's head over here to the bot commands and type in stale items. And when we do so, you're going to see a list of items that have not had a report in a while. This is especially useful for when you feel like there are a lot of people in the same items and it's taking a while to complete a trade. Then you can see this is a bunch of items that nobody has been trading recently. Right here, the Dragonmatic. I'm actually probably going to do this because I've made a lot of money off this item and I didn't realize it had been so stale for so long. If you type in something like my stats, you're going to see where the bot has recorded all of your stats. So you can see I made about 500 mil yesterday. I've made just under 3 bill for the month, and I've made almost 30 bill total since I've joined Flipaholics. And it has a bunch of other kind of nifty stats that everyone likes, and you can kind of just browse those to your heart's content. Next, we can type in dash. This will bring up your dashboard. If you press my stats, it prints your my stats button. If you press these blue buttons, it brings up your history, so everything you've traded since you've entered the Flipaholics community, and that includes public and private database. Your open reports, so these are things that maybe purchases that you had that you haven't reported a sale for yet, or if you reported a sale but missed the buy or forgot the buy, then you can see that, oh man, I forgot one, etc. My items is just you can favorite and you can follow items. So if I say follow main hand Ascension, now I'm going to get DM'd anytime an Ascension crossbow is updated by the bot. In each section, you can also use the items command, which gives you an interactive list of all the items in that category. So here you can see the elite items, and by reacting and pressing, waiting a second, it scrolls through the whole list. You can see all of them. I don't really recommend using this. If you have access to spreadsheets, I just recommend using the alias spreadsheet, because if you let this sit for too long, it stops interacting with the bot and the bot stops paying attention, and then you have to hit items again and start over. Last thing, we talked about the stale items list up here. If for some reason you're considering doing something but you can't afford it, or you're unsure and you don't even know where to begin, you can come to the Price Check Me channel and you can submit requests to be price checked. So here there's one pending for Noxious Scythe. I might do this here in a few minutes. And people are free to accept or decline these as they want. Notice I do a bunch of them. But a lot of the mods will do and help out with price checks whenever they notice them. So I hope you found the video guide helpful. Please remember that it's not a complete substitute for reading the rules in the FAQ. You need to read those whenever you get a chance. But this was just to give you a starting ground to kind of not go into it completely blind, not be overwhelmed by that wall of information. If you have any questions, feel free to tag a server mod by using the number at server mod, hit tab, use that. You can ask a question. You can also create a ticket if you have any issues with the bot or any issues with anything else. We usually prefer if you create a ticket just so everyone can kind of see what's going on. And if one mod gets busy, they can go back and see, what was happening. Anyway, good luck out there, and I can't wait to see some of you guys pass me up on the leaderboards. Peace.